Committee regular meeting on Wednesday, September 11th, 2024 at 6:01 PM. Ms. List, please take a roll call.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Shalal. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Charbonneau.
Here, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move to special report of student representatives. Do we have a representative from Shea High School?
And we are representing Shea High School.
All right, shall I begin? First thing on our first day of school on August 29th, we held assemblies for grade 9 and grade 12 students to welcome them properly. And the very next day, we held them for the grade 10th and grade 11th students. That way, we believe that we held proper assemblies for each group of students so that we could give them proper introductions to the new school year. Now, we held our senior sunrise on the very first day of school. About 20 students came, and it was Ms. Carpelli that helped us have our senior sunrise, so a lot of thanks to her. Additionally, we had our Mark give us a small snack for those who came. For that, we thank them a lot. Now, we're also looking forward to schedule our senior trip and prom. So we are setting that up and we still have a lot of time, thankfully. Now, the Shea homecoming game is going to be held on Thursday, October 3rd. Our homecoming dance will be held the very next day on October the 4th. We are looking forward to our pep rally featuring the Battle of Classes. Now, as for our culinary and hospitality students, they attended the Lieutenant Governor Sabrina Matos Youth Entrepreneurship Boot Camp on Friday. Students met industry professionals and explored the different types of business across the state. This was a great day for Shea and Tolman students.
I am actually one of the students who attended the Lieutenant Governor's Youth Entrepreneurship Boot Camp. It was a very nice experience. I greatly appreciate those who put that together. Also on our list, we are actually continuing our partnership with Brown University as a part of like this tutoring program where students from Brown University actually come to Shea and assist students with stuff such as tutoring, SAT prep, even like for the seniors, college essay writing, college workshops. So that's an amazing partnership that we are very grateful to have. Also, since it is the beginning of the year, many of our clubs and organizations are starting to have meetings as so I am president of student council. We just had our first meeting today. So, and also our key club meetings have already started. So we will be seeing most of those things start to unravel as the year progresses. Also, our fall athletic season has started with sports such as football, soccer, volleyball, cross country, and tennis. I know I was at the girls volleyball game last night and we took the game 3-0 against Achievement First. So our athletic season is already starting off very well. Alrighty, and our open house is scheduled for September 24th from 6 to 8. And we will be showcasing our amazing school to the grade 8 students that are interested in attending Shea, as well as students who are already attending Shea if their families want to come and see the inside of the building, see how our classes work. Many teachers will be there representing our departments, and also we will have student representatives mostly running it to showcase our different clubs and organizations inside of Shea. So thank you for your time. We can, we will, we are Shay High.
Nicely done. Someone from Tolman.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Torres. I'm a junior at Tolman High School, and I'm pleased to share some of my highlights of recent events over these past couple hectic weeks. Our summer graduation ceremony celebrated 14 graduates. The ninth grade orientation was a success, drawing over 200 guests. Our National Honor Society did a great duty by organizing and helping the students through the tour. We have a new administrative team this year, and they're doing a fantastic job, including our new principal, Ms. Voro, our assistants, Jay Hill and Mr. Albuquerque. They've been actively engaging with students and staff in the hallway and being present and overseeing all the floors and helping keep us safe and have an active learning environment. We're excited to invite families to our back to school event, September 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. Our fall sports are going extremely well right now. Our high school soccer team, which I am a part of, I am a goalie, where we had a game yesterday. We lost 2-0 to North Kingston, but it was a very good game. I know our football team is doing extremely well. They had recently won their injury. They had lost their injury fund to Woonsocket, only by 6 points, though, so it wasn't too bad. I know our volleyball team won last night. And as of tennis and cross country, I don't know anything about them, but I know they're doing pretty good. Well, I'd like to thank you all for your continued support, and I'm looking forward to an excellent school year. Thank you all for your time.
All right, and a student from Jackie Walsh.
Hello, good evening. My name is Nevaeh Senecal. I am a senior visual art major at JMW. Currently at JMW, we have had a great start to the year. We kicked it off with our grade 9 welcome night on August 26th. We had tons of people. There was a photo booth. It was super cute, and it was just great to see everyone come in and be so excited for JMW. The next day, we had our senior sunrise on August 27th. We had most of our senior class actually show up. It was awesome. We had donuts, we had fruit. People came in and brought food from their own culture. It was just a really beautiful moment. We are looking forward to some upcoming events. September 24th at 6 p.m. is our parent welcome night. So students, new and old of JMW, are welcome to have their parents come in. We are also kicking off recruitment season and will be at multiple local high school fairs at the start of October, and we'll be holding our prospective student open house on October 23rd. Thank you so much.
One second. Ms. Stubbe, you had something?
I just want to say to the 4 students who just spoke, I actually teach public speaking at the college level, and my students had their first speech today, and they were a ball of nerves. And after they went, I said, you've now done that, and you have to realize the power of being able to stand up and speak before people and speak in front of this crowd, in front of the elected officials. And you all did such a wonderful job. I'm looking forward to hearing you speak more and continue to use your voice. Thank you.
We will move to public participation. Mr. Fagnoli.
Good evening, y'all. Thanks for giving me the time to speak with y'all tonight. I'd like to address the committee today regarding yesterday's primary election results. It was an absolute disgrace, the showing that came out yesterday. And I'll stand here publicly and say that I spent the day from one polling location to the other doing the handing my material out as they were walking out. The Pawtucket Teachers Alliance. You had teachers sitting at every polling location, handing out a flyer. You can look at me with that smile till you're blue in the face, and that's fine, wrong. You did not even put that the Pawtucket Teachers Alliance had anything to do with that flyer. You had members of this committee blacked out their faces in gray, and you had smiley faces next to the ones you wished them to vote for. You're a coward. How could you do that? That's ridiculous. You had your teachers volunteering, sitting outside of the polls, smashing other candidates. And every time one of the candidates would ask, who drew up this flyer that you put out? Well, we don't know who printed it. No one asked who printed it. We asked who put it together because it was pretty dirty and nasty. So I hope you're proud of yourself because it was really embarrassing. And some of your own teachers were embarrassed to have to sit there and hand them out. With that said, my concern now is going to go to McCoy Stadium and how it's now been implemented as a possible significant historical landmark. And the new high school may not be able to be located there. I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but that did happen through the city. So I'm here to ask, what are we going to do now then if we cannot put our high school at the location in which we planned for the last 2 years when we bonded and elected for the bond money, which we still got $100 million from 2018 that we could put into the existing high schools if we get the bonding done this year. If not, then the children are going to remain in these high schools that are not up to par. And I feel bad for them. And I also feel bad for our brand new superintendent who you all want to throw stones at when nothing with her signature has even come up as far as the discrepancies that y'all want to throw in her face. You should be embarrassed of yourself. Thank y'all, and you have a good night.
Mr. Segala.
Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to talk about scheduling. You guys have some scheduling conflicts with the city council. I spoke to Jim about this earlier. I'm just wondering if there's anything you guys can do going forward to avoid scheduling meetings on the same day as other council meetings or other commissions. I've talked to the council about this and the and other committees, and they don't seem very responsive. They don't feel the need to coordinate with everybody. So, I mean, if you guys could make the first move, maybe that would get the ball rolling and there could be a little more coordination, because people that want to go to all the meetings, it's tough because the meeting starts in like 45 minutes. And, you know, if I wanted to speak at city council, I don't have the time to speak here, stay here for the meeting, and then go over to city hall to sit for the city council meeting. So it gets tough. But I also want to congratulate all the candidates that got in, and shout out the ones that didn't get in. I know you guys well, and you guys are good people. So I hope you guys have something in your political futures going forward and don't give up. And I want to shout out Superintendent Royal, especially for the free lunch program. Just to share my own personal story about it. There was times that I couldn't afford lunch, and that puts you in a tough situation. You feel embarrassed when the lunch ladies, hey, you owe this much, you know, we have to give you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or sun butter and jelly sandwich because they don't allow peanut butter. So that's a really great program, and everyone involved in it, I believe Miss Erin Doobie was also a part of that. So I want to thank you guys for doing that. It's going to mean a lot to a lot of students. And of course, I'm not in school anymore, but it's a good thing to see. On that note, thank you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Bento.
Oh, good evening, everybody. I'm not sure where to start. Yeah, yesterday was a little bit of a strange day. I've been at polling stations for decades and I've never seen anything like it. Yes, I will agree with Dave. There was a big showing of teachers out there yesterday, everywhere. um, so the sad thing is that some of the teachers that were out there um, do not live in Pawtucket, do not pay taxes in Pawtucket, yet they were there with a flyer, handing them out, telling Pawtucket residents how to vote here in Pawtucket. That was a little weird. But when I approached some of them, none of them knew who the candidates were. That was kind of weird too. A lot of weird things happening in the city. I actually had a conversation with a couple of the candidates. I'm glad to see a couple here today that won, because my question to them was, where have they been? Like, I haven't been to any meetings. I've been to all of them and I hadn't seen them here. That was weird. I'm gonna hear that word weird a lot. Yet they were endorsed. That's weird. One of them said to me that they haven't been to the meeting because they hadn't had time. Well, how are you going to make it to the meeting now that you won? That's weird. My point is, we have people from the Teachers Alliance coming into our city, passing out pamphlets with no idea of who gave them the pamphlet, who's on the pamphlet, and why they're even handing this pamphlet out. But yet they were there handing them to all the residents, telling them this is who you should vote for. That's very disturbing, because that tells me that we're going to be dealing with a whole bunch of brand new puppets over here. That's scary because we're dealing with our children. So let me get to my last point about that part. Along with that scary part, I met a lot of really nice teachers because I spoke to some of them because I wanted to know if they knew why they were handing this pamphlet out. And a lot of them were just really nice people. Like, and I've always said this, I've never said all teachers are bad. I point out Ronnie all the time because he gives them the wrong message from the rest of us. But they all had one thing in common that they were saying, right? They all said they just want someone that's going to fight for the teachers more. Can somebody tell me what that means? Who are you teachers at war with? The kids? The buildings, the committee, who are you guys at war with? I'm curious to know. You want people to stand up for you. You got a union president doing a terrible job, but according, you guys pay a union president. He's standing up for you. Who are you guys at war with? Because in my opinion, it's about the kids, not the teachers. You guys are grown. Take care of yourself. You got a whole union president representing you. I need to know who you guys are at war with, because every single one said that. We need someone who's going to stand up for the teachers. Well, the parents need someone that's going to stand up for the kids, especially the kids that look like us. But there's the problem. The minute someone looks like us, everybody starts looking like it's a war. It doesn't have to be a war. Calm down. So let me get to my next point, because I think you all pretty much know where I'm going with this. My next point is going to be, I'm actually going to address Lee Rabbit for a second. I, as a parent, had an issue a few months ago where I had to go to Shea High School and handle something. I was pretty calm when I got there. I was actually dealing with Mr. Andrade. And I find out later on that Lee Rabbit made a phone call as soon as I entered the building, before I even said a word. There's an irate parent in the building. Why am I irate as soon as I walk in? What makes me irate? My look? What I'm wearing? What makes me irate, Miss Rabbit? Now, I'll tell you why I'm saying that. You ready? What did you do and who did you call when one of your school committee members walked up into the school department last week screaming and yelling, scaring people in the building, making a new secretary cry. Then you guys wonder why no one wants to work in Pawtucket. This is why you've got people who abuse their power and walk into a school department with families, children, parents, everybody in the building, and a school committee member, an older white woman that was described, so it's somebody on the side, rolled up in there screaming and yelling about books, scaring the bejesus out of people. Who did you call? Did you call anybody to say there's an irate school committee member in the building? I sent an email out last week to find out what was done to hold this person responsible. This person got a high five because she won her seat back yesterday. Who's going to hold her responsible for what she did? We wonder why there's, we got some vacancies. Who wants to work here when someone like that can roll up in the building and just scare everybody and nothing gets done about it? I know you can't answer me today, but I think what I'm saying is what everybody, she's always making it about color. I must. Because when I walk in the building, before I even open my mouth, I'm irate. Right? Because I'm direct. And I'm directing my my words to you. So I'm irate. What's she? Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, according to me. But nobody called anybody on her, right? So stop telling me I'm making it about color. I have every right to do that because when we walked into a building as parents, as concerned parents, we're labeled all kinds of things. But when a school committee member rolls up into a school department building screaming like a maniac, nobody could calm her down about books for her friend or whatever the story is. It doesn't even get out. Everybody's hush hush. That story's not going to get out. That's not going to make the media, is it? Nah, it won't. But if it was me, I'd be locked up right now. That's all I'm going to say.
Mr. Rowers.
Good evening, committee members. I prepared some remarks that may change near the end because we just got a wonderful development. I want to make sure we give credit. But committee members, we had, on behalf of the school social workers, we had sent a letter to your emails yesterday, and I realized it was election day, so you may have not been able to read it, but I do encourage you to still read it. There's some information that I think is informative to you all in terms of the overlapping and significant differences between educational roles, such as a school psychologist, guidance counselor, maybe adjustment counselor, those positions. So, but I just want to start by saying that, we came here today to address what we had believed were some ongoing concerns around the school social worker shortage of 5 positions that remained eliminated and the what we view to be the inequitable allocation of social workers. Again, some of that has changed, and I'm going to have you announce that. But I want to start by saying we appreciate your engagement on May 30th and June 27th, where you heard our testimonies. And we appreciate the willingness of the superintendent for engaging with us social workers. In that spirit, I just want to say that as a collective, we social workers come here always from a place of love and respect. We're not trying to complicate the work of this committee or this administration. We realize that everyone wants the best for our students and that this work is really, really difficult. But when we come here, it's on behalf of our students and on behalf of our profession. And our issues regarding the social work shortage had remained unresolved. And we just wanted to stay on your radar amidst the changing priorities. And again, I want to state that, but I also want to reiterate the multifaceted role that school social workers play. We're not just here for special education students. We provide crisis response, counseling, community resource connections, and we serve the overall student body. Our impact extends far beyond what is reflected in data. we are very different. And I got a lot of love for guidance counselors. I got a lot of love for school psychologists, but we are vastly different in the sense that our training is very much grounded in a lot of clinical training, a lot of clinical interventions that cannot necessarily be said for other educational roles. In our letter to you yesterday, we pointed out that recent reports in the media have suggested progress in recalling back two social worker positions, but unfortunately, the reporting was somewhat inaccurate. Of the positions that were mentioned, only one new position that was created was at the new and exciting alternative school called the Pawtucket Hope Academy, which I was recalled back to. But again, that was a new school and therefore a new position opened up. It did not go at the heart of what we view to be still 5 social work positions eliminated. Also, there was in the article, the Valley Breeze article, the second position was they had the recall of the second position, which was just simply a school social worker covering a leave of absence for another social worker at Winters Elementary. So again, not necessarily targeting those 5 social work positions that were cut. We were also concerned about, again, the allocation of social workers. Under the current policy, one school social worker per school. We find that to be inequitable, and we're hoping that there's a change in that where we're also considering student population. For example, we have a colleague at Tolman High School. Tolman has over 1,000 students. We think it's unfair to the students and that staff member that she has to take on 1,000 students. I mean, it's unreasonable and impossible workload. And so we're asking immediate attention to that and action to those 2 things. But again, my remarks have changed significantly because the superintendent had reached out to one of my colleagues and had announced that they're actually going to hire 2 school social workers to send to those 2 high schools. And so I'm not here to, what's that saying? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. That is progress. And so I give kudos to the superintendent and to this administration for committing to that. We still would like those 3 other positions to get filled, but for now we are sincerely grateful. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
All right. Ms. Reel. Ms. Reel?
Good evening. I'm a student at Tolman High School, and I wanted to talk to you guys about our new schedule for both Shea and Tolman. Each class is 45 minutes, and I do remember that schedule as being the middle school schedule at Gulf. And I just want to address the fact that 45 minutes is not enough for the AP classes. At our schools, the teachers don't have enough time to go over the material that they should in one period. So that might affect our AP test scores, which I know I've asked my friends aren't really good at the moment for the past 2 years. So the schedule is not going to help our test scores as much. Another thing is that our internship classes, we have a couple of those, 7 days a week in our schedule does not help. There are 5 days that we are in school. We're not going to have, for example, day 7 every week. So if we chose day 7 as our day to go out for the internship, we wouldn't get enough hours in the year to pass the internship class. Another thing is that we get all 7 periods in one day. Some of those classes are a lot for some students, for example, like AP pre-calculus, AP stats. It's a lot on the brain. So having that every day is not the best. I take a couple of AP classes. I'm in the Marketing and Management Academy internship class. So our teacher has had a lot of trials trying to get us into our internships. So yeah, I just wanted to see if there's anything you guys can do about that.
All right, we will go to new business discussion action items. Fallon Play Yard fence approval, Mr. Silva.
How is everybody tonight? I'm before you tonight to ask for approval for fencing for a play yard fence at Fallon. It consists of 71 linear feet of 4-foot tall vinyl coated black chain link fence, 3 swing gates, and a 14-foot rolling gate. We went out on the MPA and we received 1 response from United Fence. It's for a total cost of $15,169. I was asked to get the quote for this by special education and the former principal that was there. I guess there's a problem with some of the other pre-K, K classrooms cutting through one of the pre-K rooms to get to a play yard, disrupting the learning environment. So that's why we've asked to put this in. It would come out of our local budget, and my recommendation to the school committee is to accept United Fence's proposal for the fence.
Motion to approve the Fallon fence replacement to United Fence by Ms. Bonolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Discussion, Mr. Shalal.
Are you trying to get this done? Was there a deadline when you sent out? So that has to be done by October 1st or something? Or?
If it gets approved, then I'm gonna have it done right away. So before the weather goes
Right,
bad.
and that's what my question. Is that why we only got one person
Yes.
bidding for it?
Yes, most likely.
So my question would that be to follow up, is it that pressing? Tell me, I hope we heard from the teachers on this. Is it that pressing in the administration? Should we wait until the spring and try to see if more companies will bid? Because 15,000, unless you guys I think that's a lot for that size fence.
It's around average, but I would suggest that we do it now because of the kids being interrupted during nap time and stuff like that, because full classrooms are going through their classroom to get out to the current play yard, because they would have to go out into the parking lot and walk the parking lot to get to it.
Chris, thank you for bringing this forward. And Mr. Shalal, just to kind of touch on what you were saying, myself and Dr. Tate actually walked Fallon this spring, and we had met with the preschool teachers, and there was 1 or 2 particular classrooms that all day long kids were coming. They were going out the door through the classroom, then they were coming back in.
Yes.
So, and there was like 1 or 2, but there tended to be 1 classroom that they continuously did it through. And if you have 5 preschool classrooms, that's 10 disruptions a day. And anyone who just has 1 preschooler at home knows once the attention, it's hard to bring it back. So what we did was we actually walked out with the principal at the time, and we asked if they were able to go down the corridor and maybe walk along. And that area is very wide open. And unfortunately, the parking lot's over there, the kids could get out. There's like an opening where the kids could just run right out to the school, to the street. It was something that we had discuss with the principal. So I do think it is something that needs to be prioritized. Okay. So, but it was just a little background on that.
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor to approve. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Bonolo. Yes. Ms. Carney. Yes. Mr. Shalal. Yes. Ms. Doobie. Yes. Ms. Fernandez. Yes. Ms. Grant. Yes. Mr. Shabna.
Yes. Pothole repairs.
Request is for pothole repair at Agnes Little, totaling 792 square feet. It's would consist of saw cutting, removal, and replacement of the asphalt. We went out on an MPA quote for that, and the MPA for that. Again, we received one response. I believe this was because it was a small job. The price comes out to $7,524. We've had parent complaints and we've had teacher complaints about the condition of the Agnes Little parking lot. That's why we're going out for it.
Motion to approve the pothole repairs at Agnes Little to Oak Hill Farms by Ms. Manolo, seconded by Ms. Grant. Discussion, Ms. Manolo.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's our responsibility to fill potholes?
Yep. Yep, we have to repair, we repair our own parking lots, we plow our own parking lots, maintain them. Yep. The city would come in, but we have to clear the sidewalks and stuff like that, but we wouldn't replace any damaged cement on the sidewalk.
Motion on the floor to approve. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call on the approval for Oak Hill Farms, please.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Shalal. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shabana.
Yes. Thank you, Chris. All right. Ms. Liz, can you clarify for me, are we tabling this next item? We are. Motion to table the Empowerment Factory MOU by Ms. Doobie, seconded by Ms. Carney. Roll call on the table, please.
Ms. Manolo. Ms. Carney. Mr. Shalal. Ms. Doobie. Ms. Fernandez. Ms. Grant. Mr. Shabana.
Yes. Thank you. All right, Pawtucket Unified High School Project Labor Agreement. Feasibility study, presentation or discussion, and possible action to enter into the project labor agreement. Everybody remembers Attorney Conley, right?
It's good to be back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think generally a lot of my presentation on these project labor agreements is the legal background for it, the type of analysis that goes into it. This board is very familiar with that. We've already done some project labor agreements in this committee. So what I really want to do is focus on some of the structural changes that have occurred since my most recent PLA in the city and now. One of the things that I think is really important to note is as the RIDE program has caused more and more school construction across the entire state, we've seen more and more schools, if not all of them, enter into project labor agreements. So there's been a creation of essentially a market expectation that these will be PLA projects. That's really critical in our analysis of risk of labor dispute. When something becomes a market expectation, a deviation from an expectation is an opportunity for protest, strike, whatever it might be. This market expectation is pushing projects effectively more and more in the direction of PLAs. One of the other things that came in, which I think is just a clear benefit, has been a commitment from the trades, and it's attached as an exhibit to my report, that there will be no double benefits, which is a phenomenon that can increase labor costs in a PLA relative to a standard contract. There's a commitment that if there are specific key personnel that are not within the trades, but they are needed for any of the projects, the unions wouldn't have any objection to them working on the project and not necessarily participating within the unions themselves. That commitment is important on a project of the scale of complexity that we have related to this particular building. And both of those points are something that I think is pretty critical to touch base on. Is there's this sort of general pushback against PLAs is this perceived additional cost related to increased labor costs. And that is actually not correct because it's a prevailing wage project no matter what. So the distinction between the union wages and the prevailing wages is negligible. If there was an option for a prevailing wage or non-prevailing wage project, there would be changes in labor costs, but that's not an option because of the amount of state funding involved. So in terms of the actual labor costs themselves, they're relatively neutral. The other critical component is the availability of labor. There's a few pages in our report. We go through each and every single one of the trades. We take a specific look at what the project itself is calling for. We don't perceive an issue with the availability of labor on this particular project. I will say that I have been warning communities that that pace is a factor here. The Rhode Island General Assembly essentially has ended this program, which has caused a crush of applications because without the state funding, it doesn't really work for a lot of communities. So a lot of school districts that were thinking, do I want to do a project? Do I not want to do a project? The second the door seemed to close, they filed to do a project. So one of the things I am concerned about is if a delay associated with any of these projects, especially a project at this scale, starts to push the timeframes within the same timeframes as all of the other school projects coming online, which is literally in the billions of dollars worth of school projects, that amount of simultaneous construction bears some risk and sort of availability of labor. So I do think having a labor agreement in place and moving quickly to stay ahead of that potential crush is very important. And I think a portion of that, which is in our benefit, is the size and scale of this project gives you buying power. So amongst all of those other schools that are applying simultaneously, I believe this is the second largest single bond or single project in the state. So even if you are up against some of those pressures, I do think your buying power puts you in the queue a little bit ahead of smaller scale projects that are a third or a quarter the size of what we're looking at. I'm happy to answer questions, whether it's on the specifics of this project, which I know everyone knows well, but I'm happy to address them, or structurally what PLAs deliver or require. The next steps, if there was a favorable recommendation, would be to negotiate a contract. The contracts that we've been negotiating most recently have not included those additional commitments that we got from the trades, which include key personnel and double benefits, which I think is a strong win for the district if it were to go that pathway. And the other thing that we've done is we've built in a structural program for all of the parties have been communicating with each other if they have the concern about timeline. Timeline relative to a school project is particularly important. And if there's an inability to resolve the timeline issue, it gives us a contractual, predictable process on how we can look to find labor when and if we need it, not just right at the finish line, but over the course of the project, we can identify little spots of concerns. Again, happy to go through everything in more detail, but I also don't want to reiterate things to a board that I've made a very similar presentation to in the past.
Motion to approve the project labor agreement feasibility study by Mr. Shalell, seconded by Ms. Connie. Discussion, Ms. Spinello.
Does that have the internship program in it?
We will be able to negotiate that as, again, I would anticipate that they would want to do that. Their relationship with the building futures is something, the trades, when I say they, they're very invested in. So I imagine that will fold itself in again.
Anything else on the project labor agreement? Roll call on the approval, please.
Ms. Spinello? Yes. Ms. Carney? Yes. Mr. Shalell?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez?
Yes.
Ms. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Shabana?
Yes. Thank you, Attorney Conley. All right, then we'll move to the last item, Goff Middle School building temperature. Ms. Grant? Who's-
I know, I believe it was the last meeting we had. I had mentioned that I thought this was something that we should keep an eye on. The reason being is that when these windows were put in, I don't think we were all aware that we were only able to open them 4 inches. And that temperature could be a concern. I know when the superintendent and I went and toured through the school, I know we had some discussion with the principal at the time about maybe bringing some air conditioners in, how many we would need. And then, since then it had been on the agenda, but we had, discussed more about the buildings and what was going on with the actual windows. Since the teachers have gone back to school, I have received a couple of emails. I don't know if anyone else has. I won't read the whole thing, but there, I just want to just kind of share, some of the concerns, that the building is hot. Even despite what the temperatures have been outside, the classrooms are just extremely hot. The one teacher had mentioned that the windows that open in only open like 2 to 3 inches. A student had asked this particular teacher to open the window, and she told him that it was open already. The students are hot, the teachers are hot, and this is with fans in the classroom. They had mentioned that outside temperature here in Pawtucket was 74 degrees. In the classroom, it was almost 80. Some of the teachers have had to purchase their own fans because there weren't enough fans purchased for the classrooms. They're concerned about the winter. The temperature, I guess, and I'm not sure how the buildings work, but I guess the concern is that the custodian had mentioned that the school buildings don't have control over the heat. So a lot of times when the buildings are very hot, they'll open the classrooms, the windows, and they're also concerned about the airflow, the high temperatures, and they're also concerned about how unhealthy it is with flu season coming up and things like that. I guess, and this kind of gets a little bit off of the windows a little bit, but it kind of goes with the hotness. And I guess this is something we could look into. But they have limited access to water in the building. They mentioned that the filters have not been changed, but I guess certain things need to be done by plumbers. We don't have a plumber. Several classrooms and offices in the building have windows that do not open at all. They have been labeled with blue tape. They're just asking for some relief. That was one email I had received. Again, this particular teacher is concerned about airflow. They're feeling, or this particular teacher feels that this isn't really a healthy environment for both teachers and students to teach in and to learn in. Again, I have brought this to the table a couple of times. I know the last time I mentioned that when it came to us kind of cooling the rooms, it would kind of probably fall back on us. I think I understand we have a lot of schools that do not have air conditioning. And I realize that. But these windows only open 4 inches, where other windows, they do get a little bit more airflow. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but but I really do think that we need to look into it. I think we need to, as a school committee, make sure, we're a customer service entity, and the people we service are our students and the families. And our product is education. But if we don't have our students and teachers in the correct environment, then the teachers can't teach and the students can't learn properly. So again, I wanted to bring it to the committee, let them know about the emails that I've received and the continued concern that I have about it. And, like I said, I know when the superintendent and I had walked it, she had asked the principal then, how many air conditioners would she probably need? And I think the number was about 50. But I think we're going to need to do something about this. I think it's going to continue to be a problem. Like I said, one of the teachers had mentioned about the heat. So, I don't know if anyone else has any other opinions on it, if anyone else has received emails on it. But I just wanted to continue to advocate that we really try to do something for this building. Because I think even when myself and the superintendent walked it, I think the conversation would have never come up about air conditioners if we didn't feel at that time, or the superintendent didn't feel at the time, that we could unfortunately have some problems.
Notes on this? Ms. Finola?
Oh, I saw this on the agenda and I had spoken to Kim about it. She sent me a copy of the letters. But today when I was going through my emails on the commissioner's memo, RIDE is committed to helping Rhode Island districts build safe and supportive learning and teaching environments for students and educators. LEAs can seek approval of up to $500,000 for immediate health and safety upgrades, including security improvements. This allows the projects to be eligible for reimbursement once they are complete. To request these approvals, LEAs must provide, and then it says the letter from the superintendent, health and safety certification, supporting documents. Is that a possibility that we could do something with GOF, given that we've had the investment of the windows and other repairs, the roofing repairs, the skylight repairs, other things that we could possibly use this?
I don't know if air condition falls under security or health and safety.
No, but circulation, air circulation would.
Right. I would just caution this committee going forward, and the decision will be made after I'm gone, but adding 50 air conditioners to a school that we just invested $6 million in windows in, and I get it, Ms. Grant, some windows don't open much, some open out, some open in, whatever. We have schools that the windows don't open and they don't have air conditioning. And when we add 50 air conditioning units to one of these old building electrical draws, forget it. The chase is on, and it'll be a compounding thing where you just keep throwing good money after bad. I think all the schools should be equipped with central air. They should look like Winters. They should look like what Baldwin's gonna look like. But we've got to be equitable here, and we talk a lot about it, but Slater was due for new windows too, and we pulled their portion back to do the windows at Goff. And now we're talking about pouring some more money into Goff to get some air conditioning. So I'd just be cautious of that fact. Ms. Doobie.
So as we talk about kind of immediate things that we can do, so I noted that we have possibly some filters that need to be changed.
When my guy went over there, 3 of the 4 were yellow, not red. 3 of the 4 were changed today. The fourth unit is a down compressor, so we're gonna order that part and replace the compressor. I've spoken to my custodians and I've put in a plan in place for them when it turns yellow, not red, to put in a maintenance ticket, because it's just like a stoplight. When the filter's first put in, it's green, and then it goes to yellow when it still has life left, but it's getting down there, and then it goes to red when it needs to be changed.
And to Mr. Charbonneau's point, this might be slightly out of the purview of Goff Middle School building temperature, but I'm going to ask anyway, do we know if the rest of our district, we have our filters checked?
Actually have my guy going around tomorrow to check all the water fountains.
Because I know sometimes it gets brought up with one building, but just to make sure. And then the second thing that was mentioned is, I mean, we are going to be moving into cooler weather, you know, we eventually, but I mean, we haven't had a very hot month, but we will be moving into cooler weather. And this building, like many of our buildings, used to have drafty windows. Windows I know that probably were opened because the temperature was cranked higher to accommodate for drafty windows in some classrooms. So is there a plan in place to have the temperature set at a manageable, cooler temperature so that we can take advantage of the fact that we now have really nice insulated windows?
Now, where those boilers are probably 8 to 10 years old, and they're connected to controllers and a BMS that are over a decade old. So what they think it is failing valves. So we would need to identify a funding source for this, because it would be expensive, and go out to the off the MPA or go out on an RFP to replace all the failing valves, replace the BMS. The fan thing, I don't know who they asked. Every time I have plenty of fans, and every time they ask, I always send them over. So I still have fans. I can send more over to Goff today. What we can do is I can have my guy, because we can't regulate the temperature in Goff. So what we have to do is turn it on, turn it off. So my boiler guy, I've instructed him on cold days. Well, it's going to run overnight. So, and then he goes over there and he turns it off. And then we regulate the temperature. We record the temperature, and when its building starts losing degrees, then he's going to have to go over there and start it up again. But we would have to go out through an RFP or an MPA for individual controllers in the classroom, because this is a very old system.
And I guess my last question was to the superintendent, or do you have you been in the building? Have you evaluated it in comparison to our other buildings? And
I've been in the building. Yes, I've been in the building plenty of times. It's on par with the other schools that do not have air conditioning, because a lot of these buildings, like Jay was saying, they're old. They do not have central air. It's on par with them. What I was going to say about the windows, they were approved and controlled by Historic Society and the architect. We've asked to raise up the blocks a little bit, and nobody connected to the project recommended it. So my suggestion is, I'm going to reach out to John, see if he can reach out to Historic, see if we can move the blocks up to where the windows can open 10 inches. And with the size of the windows, because they are much wider than the regular school windows, the surface area will be of being able to be open would be more than the old windows.
It's historic regulation that you can't open the windows more, or the windows?
The windows were approved by Historic.
And then it's a safety regulation on the 4 inches.
I'd have to look into the safety regulation, which one it was. I wasn't involved in the construction meeting, so I do not know about the safety regulations. But that would be my idea, because if we can open them 10 inches, you would have more surface area that's actually open than the old windows that were there, because I think they're like 3 feet wide, 4 feet wide. So.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay.
Ms. Fernandez?
You answered about the heat being controlled, because we did all receive that email. And I can't remember exactly, but it said something about the heat is controlled from downtown.
Can
you explain that?
It's a building maintenance system. It's a computer program that has all these sections of the school, and it tells you what the temperature is, if everything's working or not. And usually if it's working and if it's not so old, we can control it that way. But this one is not, it's out of date and has to be replaced.
Okay. And then there was something else that Ms. Grant said about what does a plumber need to do in the?
Change the,
Filters that
yeah,
you just said that,
the water fountain, the bubblers.
yeah.
We had, our plumber is not, as you know, we don't have a
Yeah.
plumber anymore. That was part of his job, was to change the filters. So I've been talking to one of my other guys and he's been changing the filters for me.
Does it need to be a plumber to change the water filter?
It doesn't, but that was part of his job description.
Okay, but it doesn't need to be a plumber.
No.
So anybody can do it.
And
So
to
it's not like
change the
we need
filter,
a-
yes,
Okay.
change the filter. But it was his job description, so.
I understand. When she just said it, it made it seem like we needed a plumber to replace filters. So I wanted to be sure it could just be done by one of the custodians.
The custodians, I don't like having them change it. It's one of my maintenance men.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, did you have something? And then Ms. Grant, you can.
The last time we talked about the windows and raising them up was a safety issue and liability. And we did talk about possibly putting screens in because it would give that much room for, and 3 feet wide is enough for a student to jump. So it's a safety liability, and that would be on us if we went for a variance and raised the windows that high without putting some type of protection to avoid someone exiting that window. That's all.
Ms. Grant.
Just kind of wanted to say the same thing. The last meeting, we discussed this. Gianna had brought the gentleman who was responsible for the windows, putting them in. And he had stated that the windows can go higher than 4 inches. But whoever raises them higher than 4 inches is responsible for anything that happens.
Yes.
In that sense. And then he did, I can't specifically recall what he said about the screens. But I know he did mention some that we didn't have any.
Yes, that's why I was recommending that if we could have them blocked off to only open up 10 inches, it would be for safety concerns.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say one more thing in regards to the plumber. It wasn't, I just wanted to clarify, it's not me who's saying a plumber has to do it. The email, the person said that someone must have told them that it's a plumber that's needed. So I just wanted to clarify that.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to add that I spoke to the principal because we had our principal's leadership training today, and the principal at golf. And I just wanted to know, maybe there was a lack of communication, and she had shared with me that this information had not been shared with her. Because when you share the information with the assistant principal, the principal, then they put the ticket in for my department, maintenance department, to address the concerns. So she was like, I didn't know that was a problem. No one's spoken to me about that. So I'm just going to ask, just moving forward, if there's a concern, to give the AP or the principal an opportunity to solve the issue. Because when it goes to our committee members and it comes here, I still got to go back to the school to address the concern. So just allowing them to address the concern first would be helpful. And then she could have notified, got it done, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So I just became aware because it came through the committees, and then it was shared with me, and I was like, okay, well, let me look into this. But it's just so helpful if we address any teachers, staff, custodians, lunch workers, anyone, to allow for the APs and the principals to address the concerns first.
I agree.
That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to discussion. items, we got them all together. That was I had put the school committee member roles and responsibilities on just to, it's a moot point at this point, but I think the committee would be wise to tighten up the communication. I think there's emails flying all over, directives flying all over from committee members to staff members, and then committee members looking to me for an update or an answer, and I don't even know that a staff member was directed to do something. So, like I said, it's irrelevant. Well, it's not irrelevant. I think the long-term success of this committee depends on a way to channel information from members to the superintendent. But when we have members firing off 5, 6, 7 emails a day, looking for updates a day later on things, looking to schedule things that are beyond our purview, you know, I'll take the hit for the committee getting off the rails with their engagement with the superintendent. But boy, I caution you, with all these projects ahead, somehow, some way, that communication's got to tighten up. And we got to remember that we hired her to run the district, not us running the day-to-day minutia of everything. And case in point was the principal doesn't even know. So, you know, there's one thing to be available to your constituency and responsive to your constituency. There's another thing to spend the chief executive of the district's day chasing ghosts around because somebody reached out to one of us personally in a text message or phone call or what have you. That is, I will, Ms. Doobie.
Thank you. So, and I did see this on, I did ask Ms. Charbonneau to just pull the 2 policies. These are dating back to quite a while ago, 2 of them back to 2015 when some of us were first on this committee. But I do want to say that the Code of Basic Management Principles and Ethical School Standards, if you don't remember, we really did spend a lot of time on this policy. And number 4 and number 11, number 4 says that we recognize the critical responsibility for selecting the superintendent, defining his or her responsibilities, and evaluating his or her performance regularly without directly engaging in administrative processes. And I think that, as Mr. Charbonneau said, that it's very important that we allow those first jobs to be very important, but also the last stipulation to be remembered. And then number 11, act only through public meetings, since individual board members have no authority to bind the board. But I do think that it is hard because I've been around for a decade. Some of you have been around for longer than a decade, we know a lot. We have a lot of information. We know a lot. We have a lot of history, more history than our superintendent has, and I know that we're eager to share it and impart our wisdom. And I just think that it does become a lot there's a lot to do in this district, and the day-to-day can become overwhelming at times. But
Ms. Bonolo.
I was happy. Excuse me. I did not speak when you were speaking, so I would ask for your respect. Mr. Charbonneau.
Ms. Bonolo, please. Ms. Bento, please, public participation is over. Ms. Bonolo, you have the floor.
So one of the things is I am frustrated with communication. It's difficult to speak to the chair sometimes. And I know you have a job and I know you have a family, but you know, we ask you questions, and when we don't get an answer, we don't get an answer. And
If you're gonna direct it at me, then let's have a conversation about it. But can you cite an example? Because the example I would cite about being off the rails is when you show up outside of school on the first day of school and you're calling administrators on their cell phone saying, you know they're there because you spotted their car, and you're at this door and you want to be let in. On the
So I
first
had
day of school.
received a phone call that there was no toilet paper, there were no supplies, there weren't a sufficient number of teachers. I had called the administration building and I had asked to have an appointment with the school. I was told I couldn't have one. Shortly after that, we received an email from you, or an email from Diana, from you, that said that you request that we do not visit any of the schools for the first month of school. Well, that's a red flag, because most people, we talk to people. Anyways, I did go in the school. It was supposed to be staffed with 60 students. They weren't there. We've been paying $22,000 a month since July. They had no furniture, not sufficient teachers. There wasn't sufficient time to prepare, and there were only 5 students in elementary school in the building. And there still weren't sufficient teachers for that. I wanted information on that. I wanted to know why we weren't prepared when we knew in July that we were putting an alternative learning program into a school that was going to hold 60 students. And on the first day of school, we didn't have but 5 elementary school students. And where were the disciplinary students that were supposed to be in there? I didn't get an answer from that. I didn't get an answer. I stopped by the next day. I met Mr. Lopes. He took me around. We talked about it. He said that the students would be in by the 16th. And he told me what the plans were. Today I happened to be in the area. They were getting equipment delivered. So it's getting there, but it was the point that we were supposed to start school on the 28th or the 29th, and we weren't prepared. And I wanted to know why. It was a simple question. The other question that I asked that had been, I'm sure one of the other things that brought this up was that I had requested that there was possibly a meet and greet with the principals and the administrators of this district, because there had been so many new people onboarded that we don't know who they are, and it would be nice to be introduced to them. It's not like it hasn't been done before, because it has. So that was a number of days ago, and I never received a response for that. It was 10 days ago because I looked it up, and there was no response to that. And I, said maybe before a meeting, at a meeting, however you wanted to do it. I don't see where there's a problem. So there is a problem with communication. People communicate with you, Jay, but they don't communicate with everybody else. And it's very frustrating. Kim asked twice to see have a review of the superintendent or find out what her plan was for the year. It was dismissed. She brought it up at a public meeting. Nobody answered. Last meeting, Jim asked about a couple of new positions on the list, and he didn't get a sufficient answer. What I'm saying is we need some type of communication. We need to know who it's coming from. We're not trying to be difficult. We want this to succeed. However, in order for it to succeed, we need answers. So if there's someone who wants to give us answers, then we would appreciate it. It is our responsibility to hire the superintendent and the superintendent to run the district. Yes, that's fine. But we can't close our eyes just because she's in position. And you know that as well as anybody else does. We run into it before. So we're not going to run into it again. Yes, I would love you to succeed. I would love this whole thing to work out fine. But somewhere along the line, we need some answers to questions. If there's someone else that can give us answers, then that's fine. Direct us to them. When we get emails from you, we get a simple answer of thank you. You know, we don't get a disposition of what we asked. We don't get anything other than thank you. So we know that you've gotten the email.
I want to be clear. When I send a response of thank you, you're sharing something that was already shared with me through community bulletins, through community newspapers, and you send it to me and I say thank you. It's not after a question that you ask me. Like, I'm wondering, I think it's a huge concern of mine. My committee members, like 60 students, I don't even know where that number came from.
That number.
Right. So we have a lot of hearsay, a lot of not factual information that's thrown around. And I just talked about this in the newspaper. I want to deal with facts. And every time someone sends an email, a text, call, ask, my understanding was that I'm responsible for sharing information with my committee because this is one body. When you call, anybody here calling, and there's only one person on the phone asking me questions, that information is supposed to go through Diana so that then the question is shared with the whole committee, and then I respond to the whole committee as a whole. You send me or text me and asking me individual questions. A lot of times they're not a question. Sometimes you're sending me a text at me, upset, and I'm like, what is this coming from? Like you're saying 60 students. It was never dictated that 60 students will be there on the first day of school. I don't know where that came from. So I'm just asked again. That was the process that was shared me when I was hired. We work as one body. You are to send questions and comments to Diana. Diana shares it with the chair, and then the chair answers or share the information with everyone. That was my understanding. But then I don't want to feel like you all feel like I don't want to communicate, so I try to respond. But really, I'm stepping outside of the guidelines. So when you send me a lot of emails, Joanne, a lot of emails throughout the day, share, and I just say thank you because, again, this job is huge. We're the third largest district in the state. It's a lot going on. And I mean, one time I sent you thank you. You're like, well, I want you to say more to me than just thank you. We're going to share the information. If you want me to share something, I will share it. I don't have a problem with that. But you do send me a lot of emails, and it is hard for me to continuously respond when I have water filters that need to be filled in, or I got a parent that's upset because something is going on. Like, there's a lot that's going on. It's just, I think that we need to get back to facts. It's a lot of hearsay. It's a lot of, if someone says it, y'all take it and run like it's the truth. I'm just saying, give me an opportunity to answer. Sometimes you text me and you're upset, and I'm like, why are you so upset? I don't even know what this information is coming from, what this is about. And then I respond. But it is a lot to do day to day in this district. It's a lot. We have a huge lift. I want to be successful. I want my teachers, leaders, staff, everyone to be successful, but it's going to take all of us. And I think that once we do tighten up our communication and that we do focus on why we're all here, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our students. But we're going to have to, I know everyone wants answers. Well, I just heard this from one of my constituents. I need to know this now. Sometimes I can't get that now, right now. But if we follow a directive, which was already placed through our operations and our codes of ethics and our procedures, I think that would tighten up. And then when Diana said, okay, I got these 3, you need to respond to these, then I'm responding to 3 or 4 instead of I have 7 bosses. And I love each and every one of you, but I'm only one person. So, and I'm trying to run a whole district of approximately 8,000 students. It's a lot.
I wanted to just add the actual narrative of what occurred. It does bring me to the other policy we have here, which says in writing, and we approved it just 6-7 months ago. Individual school committee members interested in visiting schools or classrooms will inform the school committee clerk, who will make arrangements for visitations through the principals of the various schools. So it is troubling if we have members who are violating the policies that we have as a body made, because we're asking for the same protections from those policies to say, we have a policy that says if I ask for an item on the agenda within 10 days, I am able to get that item on the agenda. So if we ask for the protections from some policies, but don't follow other policies, then we're being hypocritical because we're asking our superintendent to follow all the policies. We're asking our teachers to follow all of the policies that we as a body make. And there aren't a ton of policies in that section of bylaws, which is section B. But we as a body of 7, we need to know them. And we need to understand that it's an agreement we've made. And some of them were made before people sat here by other 7 people. But until new policies are put in place, they are the policies that govern us as a body. And once again, none of us are elected to individually direct anybody. We only govern right now in an open meeting. This is executive session. In an open meeting, we govern. We govern through, we can have oversight through subcommittees, but even there, we can't govern. It only happens here. So it's so important that we, Mr. Charbonneau says, some of us won't be around much longer. And I really do want that future committee to succeed. I want our superintendent and our district to succeed. We have to stop being an obstacle to that success.
The superintendent, you had mentioned, communicating with 7 people. Would it be possible, it doesn't have to be every week, it could be every other week, but maybe send out an update? And I'll give you an example. I know the first day of school, the first couple of days of school are probably really busy. But it would have been nice to maybe just get an email at night to all of us just saying, hey, everything went great, or there's one school that has a problem. Because I had no idea about the PLA. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know the name of the PLA changed to the Pawtucket Hope thing, the academy. I didn't even know that it even changed. So I think if we did just get, updates, you're emailing everyone, everyone's on the same page. No one's hearing it from someone else. And then if we're out there and someone said, hey, someone took that picture down, we wouldn't stand there like a deer in headlights, because it just seems like sometimes you're out there in the community, people will say stuff and you'll just have no idea. And I just think sometimes, like I said, just an update or, just something like that. I think it could, if it's something you think you could possibly do, I think it's something that could alleviate some of the emails coming in, and then it would alleviate 7 emails going out because you would be sending it all together. It's just an idea.
So what frequency are you looking at? Because right now I do updates at once a month through committee. So is that on opposite weeks? Are you talking about
Whatever you wanted to, it could be, but I'm just saying, I don't know, what I mean is, like I said, the first day of school, it would have been nice to just kind of get an update. It would have been nice to know that the PLA wasn't going to be opening those, because we had heard from a lot of people, especially, the Teachers Alliance had come up and over the last year had shared with us, in regards to the PLA, and it was something that you were very proud of. Dr. Andre saved all this money, And now it's a couple weeks into school and I have no idea where it stands. You know, I'm hearing maybe there aren't anyone there. I'm hearing some kids are going here or there. But if we could just get an update on these things, it would help us understand it more. And it could possibly alleviate emails coming into you. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you for this reference. I want to, other people have kind of called out certain numbers that they feel stand out to them, and I want to call out number 13, which is avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest and refrain from using the committee position for personal gain. And I do want to have, I'm not going to cite specific examples with other committee members because I don't feel like right now that that's a productive space for any of us. We are all here trying to work together. But communicating with the staff and asking them to do things outside of their time, their job description, outside of their daily resources that they have available to them, and making repeated, I think the superintendent would be able to manage a newsletter if she was not getting 7 emails a day. And anyone here has not, very few educators on this committee. You spend a day in a classroom. You spend as a teacher, as a custodian, as a principal. It is not the first couple of days that are probably busy. Most people haven't used the bathroom or eaten lunch all day. Some of them are still working here and in their buildings at dinner time. They have emails. They're worrying about kids getting on off the bus. So when we're sending 7 emails to principals and to superintendents, I know what it's like to be to be a building leader and to be a teacher. And I'm exhausted by the end of the day, and I'm still going to go home and plan for the next day. And I'm still going to check my emails. But when I'm looking at an inbox of 300, and I will tell you, literally, I imagine that your inbox is about 300 at least emails a day. Can you think about how much time that takes just to read those emails, let alone do her job? It's ridiculous. And we need to speak to each other and handle ourselves appropriately and with dignity and with respect in these buildings. Treat these buildings with respect and be respectful in them and respectful to the employees that work here and the students inside of them. Now, I did not run again. I am really hoping the best for this community, this committee coming up, excuse me, but I can't imagine the dysfunction continuing where we are not moving in the same direction and we are not focused on the right things at the right time. So I really do wish the next committee members best of luck, and I want to personally thank the superintendent and her team for doing everything in her power, because I have always found that she's extremely responsive and that her team is responsive. So I have not had the same experience as other people on this committee. But I have also feel that I've always handled the superintendent with respect to her time, respect to her position, and respect to the job that she has to do. And I have received nothing but respect back and immediate responses. So thank you, superintendent and her team, for my positive experience being with her so far. Thank you, Chair.
Anything else on the discussion items? All right, superintendent's update, Superintendent Royal.
Oh, got an update. All right, to start off, we did start, that was one of my updates, to talk about the beginning of the school year. We had a very strong opening of school year. Teachers, great job. Leaders, staff, my lunchroom workers, my custodians. I went around and got to as many, I think I did all 16 schools 2 days. I tried to get to every school, give as many hugs, kisses out. Just happy to see everyone, the open of school, open houses, all of them. I got to every single last one. They were all packed with families and students, very organized, just nothing but a good time and everyone enjoying the opening of schools. So thank you, leaders, teachers, staff, and students for such a strong opening. Thank you, Ms. Carney. Just to piggyback, it is a lot opening up schools. It takes a lot. Teachers were making sure that kids got home safely. They came in safely, leaders as well. So we had a very strong open of school year. And I'm not going to do that because of my staff and faculty and team members. Also, in addition, I did want to do an update on our social workers. With our social workers, I was able to secure funding with the new MLL categorical funding. They did update the regulations and guidelines as to how we could spend those dollars, because previously you couldn't hardly spend money on anything. So they did eliminate some of those barriers. I call barriers because they were not allowing us to really get things that we really needed. For example, translation programs and systems. So Hirsch and I have been tag teaming and working to get a new translation platform in our district. So, you know, sometimes you call, you're supposed to say, press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish. Well, we don't have that. So Hirsch and I will be working tag teaming to get a system in place so it can translate for my families. So that was one thing that we couldn't buy prior with those categorical funds that we can now purchase. So excited about that. And in addition to that, that was another thing was my social workers and guidance counselors. So I'm bringing back social worker for both high schools. In addition, because I've been talking to them, and I know the workloads are huge. So we are bringing those back to mainly focus with our highest needs, which is our MLL population. Also, guidance counselors. So I am bringing, in addition to Tolman and Shea, an additional guidance counselor as well. But in addition, I'm also adding 5 guidance counselors. We've never had guidance counselors in elementary schools in this district. So this year will be the first time that I'm able to purchase 5 guidance counselors. We talk about social and emotional learning, and the need is great. So I felt it was important that we start putting guidance counselors in elementary schools. So there'll be 5 guidance counselors. They will be shared between the schools, and Dr. Tate and her team will work out the partnering and the sharing of those guidance counselors. We're really looking forward to providing more additional support in our schools. Also, I was able to secure a master planner. So we're going to work with our master planner on our next future, looking at our next 5 to 7 years with our finance and our construction, because we have a whole lot of projects going on in our district. And I think it's very important that we are able to get a master planner. Right now, Bill and I are working on his contract, finalize his contract, but you all know him. A lot of you all know him, Manuel Cordero. Wonderful guy. We've had a couple of initial meetings, but I'm looking so forward to working with Manuel and helping us plan the future for the district. Also, let's see. The young lady, I saw that she left regarding the master schedule. Dr. Tate did walk over a note for me to read, but as response to our Tolman student. So, and Dr. Tate, you have horrible handwriting. I can't hardly read it, but and I don't have my glasses, so help me, okay? ABLE, a program that helps schools with scheduling, will support the district. They will take a look at the schedule to see what can be done. Right now, we do meet the guidelines for amount of minutes per classroom, but we will be working with the ABLE program to better serve our students and their needs. Thank you, Dr. And I read it. Okay, and last but not least, let's see, did I get everything? I just want to say that this committee took me in as being the first Black female in this state superintendent. You all took me in and instilled in me a trust with the babies, the young folks, the students of Pawtucket. I am way more than grateful. I can't express enough how grateful I am to have this opportunity to serve my community and my students. I love my students. We have the best kids on the planet, less than the side of the planet. I have the hardest working teachers, leaders, staff, lunchroom custodians, my clerks, love my clerks. The hardest working people are here in Pawtucket. I walked the Pawtucket Hope Academy. That was the name we kind of landed on a couple weeks ago instead of the PLA. And I walked today, met a young lady that is there now that is serving as a intern, a substitute, and she was interning. And she's finishing up her coursework and she's getting her special education degree. And she said, you're the superintendent. I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my God. She's like, guess what? I came here because I want to be here. I want to work in your district. And that felt wonderful to hear someone want to come and work with the team and the family that we currently have in Pawtucket. So no matter what you hear in the papers, no matter the negative news that you hear, we have some good things going on in our district. I have hardworking people here. The people that are here now want to be here. They chose to be here for our students and our families. And it was just a great experience walking through the Hope Academy today. It's beautiful. It looks way better than it was RIAA, tell you that. But it's a beautiful building. The teachers, students were engaged with their learning. It was just a wonderful atmosphere. And it's been open since the first day of school. And yes, it was a little slow. We opened a little slow because of those great needs of our students that we have to serve. We can't just have them all just fluctuate in the space. So we are rolling them in slowly. Today, we had even some of our secondary, a lot of our secondaries was in there today too. But there is a process. So compared to so everyone can know how this is happening, when students are coming into our particular Hope Academy, it is a program, it's not a school. So when we implement this program, we're putting in place an intake process where parents, students will know what is it that I need to do in order to go back with my peers so I can walk across stage with my peers successfully. So we send them to the Hope Academy so that they can get strategies and skills that they need so they can be successful. It is not a sentencing where students are going to go and spend the rest of their educational career at the Hope Academy. It's a program that we have been, I've definitely charged the faculty and staff that you need to give these students what they need so they can be successful back with their peers. And then once they get there, they're getting behavior plans, they meet with the social worker, the psychologist, whatever their needs are. The families will often be communicated on their students' progress. And then students will know, what is it I need to do to be considered successful so I can go back amongst my peers. And that's when we do their exit interviews with the families and the students. The process was not in place. And I think it's important that that is in place because kids need to know, how can I be successful in return back amongst my peers? So I'm looking forward to that. The students that were there today were all smiles, even the sub, we had a sub in there and she pulled me aside. She was like, oh my God, I think I'm gonna go back and get certified so I can teach. So it's a great atmosphere for our students. And I just wanted to share, because when we had our previous alternative program, students were coming back to our schools with no credits. Not one credit. That's a grave concern. That cannot happen. It's not going to happen under my watch. If they're going to school and they're at the Pawtucket Hope Academy, they will receive their credits in return amongst their peers so they can walk across that stage with their peers. So I just wanted to share what was happening. It's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes, like getting those packets together, making sure that we have information that is needed, students' needs, because there's various levels of needs in that building. So they are really working hard over there and doing a great job. So don't want to hold you any longer. Just thank you for all your support, committee, and enjoy the rest of you. Thank you.
Ms. Pinolo.
Good night.
Mr. Shalal.
I'm shocked. Hold on. Joanne, you usually give me like a 20-minute head start. I want to welcome all the teachers back. The committee, let's have a great school year, school calendar year. Welcome back. I hope you guys have a very successful school year ahead of us. And with that, good night.
Ms. Grant.
I also just wanted to welcome everyone back to school and hope you have a great school year. Thank you.
Ms. Connie.
Just thank you and good evening.
Good night.
I think I've said enough tonight. Just read the policy manual. It's good bedtime reading for everyone. Took 7, 8 years to make. So, let's not forget those policies, and good night.
Good night, everybody. Motion to adjourn by Ms. Fernandez, seconded by Mr. Shalal. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good night, everybody.